audience. Well, welcome back once again for another episode of Way of the Warrior. And as you know, my name is Trevor Martin. I'm founder of RMF Coaching. And one of the things that I like to do is go out into the social media platforms and find warriors that have a specific mindset and are trying to make sure that through whatever they're doing, that they are promoting positivity and goodness back out into this dark world. So it just so happens I found another warrior, Mr. Kyle Hogan, to join me today, and I'm excited to to listen to Kyle, listen to his story, excuse me, and kind of rewind and go back and find out exactly what makes him tick and why he chose the path that he did. So, Kyle, welcome to the show. I'm so glad to have you.
Frank, Trevor, thank you so much for having me on this morning. I do appreciate the opportunity to share with the message and create an opportunity to allow other folks to grow from positive aspects of what we're trying to do and building others up. And I think that's what really fills my bucket. That's what I'm passionate about, is how do I help enable success in other people? It's not about me. It's what we can do for others. So thanks for having me today.
I absolutely love that. And I like how you started that off with, it's not about me. It's about helping and elevating others, right? Like that's the primary purpose of it all. So I applaud that. I cannot wait to dive in. So take us back. Like, let's rewind. Like where did this passion for unpolished leadership, like where did the journey start?
And that's a great question, Trevor. And I'm thinking back, and I believe I've been on this path just to do better since I was a kid. And you can dig back into a lot of folks, their history, their upbringing. We use the term warrior, leader. To me, a lot of times those two words are interchangeable. And there are natural born leaders and there are developed leaders. And I think you have both. You see it on the athletic field. There are naturally talented athletes who demonstrate a leadership talent and ability from Pee Wee leagues and Little League baseball and AAU basketball. And you see that develop over the years. And I think there are times where, depending on how that's nurtured, it can go in one of two directions. Do they continue to have a drive? Are they hungry? Did they grow up in a situation that created that hunger, or did they grow up in a situation where their talent was nurtured? So you can have both, and there are probably aspects when some people just fall into that complacency middle, where they're not enough nurture and they're not hungry enough, and they're just sort of going through that complacency. They're going through the motions, if you will. And for me, I just grew up hungry.
I love that. I love that. Like absolutely that kind of honing in on that word, like that hungry, right? Grew up hungry. You wanted more. You knew that there was more out there and you wanted it, and you found ways to achieve that. So as you continue along, as you continued along your path, did you have any major obstacles that you had to overcome? Like, where did that journey take you? I'll say this, where did that hunger take you?
So I remember I was probably a teenager, mid-teen, probably middle school. And where I was living in North Carolina, the outlook for the folks who were in my circle, my neighborhood, those around me, they almost had a program life where they were going to do this sort of work or operate in this capacity. And that wasn't for me. We relocated in town, went from, we'll call it, blue collar to white collar area of town, if for lack of a better analogy. I didn't have the baseline or support structure. Bottom line, I had a 1.8 GPA in high school. So it's not like the colleges were handing me applications and scholarships. So I had to make a choice, what would be my path, and I chose the service. I tell a lot of folks, the service saves a lot of people. I've met a ton of, I used the athlete analogy earlier, where folks who found themselves in a social setting as opposed to an academic setting in college, and they found themselves in the service, but it was able to reignite their fire and help them propel themselves to go on and do great things. And for me, the service provided an opportunity to dig myself out, and it's a meritocracy. You show up and you demonstrate and you perform, and you're rewarded for your performance. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. That rewarding based on performance, right? Kind of, what are your thoughts on that? We live in a society now that's not that. Not rewards based on performance is everybody gets a trophy, right? You participate and you get a trophy. It doesn't matter how you did. We want everybody to feel like they're appreciated. We want everybody to feel like they were involved. What are your thoughts on that?
For those who feel that that is the right methodology, I would ask them just to turn on any National Geographic special. There's a thinning of the herd that takes place. You either perform or you starve. You eat what you kill.
Amen.
Now, that's
Yeah.
that's simplistic in nature, but that's the true reality. Now, you don't have to be the alpha. You don't have to be number one,
Right on.
but you have to perform. And there's a running joke when you're in the lost in the woods and there's two of you and there's a bear. You ain't got to outrun. I ain't got to outrun the bear. I just got to outrun you. So there's that aspect that creates the hunger, that creates the desire to be successful, and then ensuring the right reward systems in place to promote, to enable, and to allow success. Equity on opportunity, not on outcome. You earn your right to go forward. You earn your right for promotion. So that's what I really appreciated about the service, that you would perform and get rewarded for that performance. Not, and to be honest, I've never been number one at anything, but I've been good.
Yeah. I like that. So first of all, thank you for your service. Second, like I appreciate the fact that you said, I haven't been number one, but I've been good, right? I performed. I've done what I needed to do when called upon, and I did good work. And look at you now, like it shows, right? And that message is going to resonate with so many people because people are like, oh man, that's an uphill battle. And you want me to be number one? No, 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 no. No, I want you to put in your dues. I didn't say you needed to be number one, but I want you to warrior up. I want you to get to work so that when you're done, you can go back and go, yeah, that was good. I was good. I performed. I did what was asked of me. I did what I needed to do to get to the next level. That's inspiring, and those are powerful words, brother. Those are powerful words indeed. So after military, like where as you go through, how does this become to, like, let's say present day? Like what are you working on? What are you working on currently?
So even within the service, so I've got, full disclosure, I've got about 8 months left in the service till I retire,
Oh,
and then
okay.
I'll ride off into the sunset. So unpolished leadership, something's like a side hustle. It's
Okay.
something I've been trying to develop, and that may be the pivot point of what's next. Along this path over the last decade, I've had the distinct privilege of being a part of assessment selection and essentially choosing teammates to work in very challenging situations and for very challenging uh, what's the word I'm looking for? To perform on high performing teams.
Okay.
I've got to pick some pretty solid performers.
Nice.
As a methodology for improving, once you select the best team, get the right people on the bus, whole Jim Collins thing, how do you develop that talent? So a colleague and I went through the executive coaching certification together as a method to help develop that talent. And in turn became this snowball effect of, the more you pour into people, the more they're willing to give back. And again, it doesn't have to be the number one performer. If you, again, the quality of opportunity, and sometimes people don't want to take advantage of that opportunity, and that's perfectly acceptable. I don't want a promotion. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. I don't want to go on this trip. That's fine. I'm not knocking those folks who decide that they are comfortable where they are. What I caution them against is from where that comfortable turns into complacency. And then you want to be compensated for complacency. You're compensated for your competition to be better. And it's always better measured against yourself, not against others. So we took this opportunity to develop and get into the coaching space, and it's led to some leadership development seminars. It's led to some speaking engagements. So that's sort of where this has gone over the last 4 to 5 years.
That's amazing. That's amazing, right? And one of my favorite words, I mean, complacency, right? So when we think about complacency, we think about mediocrity. We think about riding that fence. We think about, I'm the status quo, right? This is right here. It's good. I don't have to try any harder. Well, the problem is that when we become complacent, we actually start to deteriorate. We don't grow. So therefore we sit stagnant, and we actually, because of that stagnation, and that complacency, we continue to get lazier, we start to digress, right? So I applaud that. I applaud the mission. I applaud the effort. I applaud what what you're doing as, as a person. When we look at society, right? We talk about everybody getting those trophies. When we look at society, when we think about our youth, in today's day and age, the focus isn't on the focus isn't on warrioring up. The focus isn't on being better. The focus is on how do you become the most popular? How do you get the most likes, right? How do you get people to pay attention to you? Not because of your authenticity or your mental strength or your toughness. No, how do you get because you're cool, because you have that persona, right? So anybody that's putting out, and then the youth, those grow into our future leaders, right, of the world, of business, of, of corporate, of anything with structure. So I'm excited, and I love following you and your journey on LinkedIn, on social media, and what you're offering other individuals. So as you think, what is unpolished leadership? What's that look like for the future? I know you were talking about, right, you've got retirement coming up right now. It's kind of a side hustle. We could go, full tilt, or, fully joy on that. Is that the plan? What are your thoughts?
So it's an opportunity. I've got to do some work on my branding. So
Okay.
it's supposed to be a stone and a knife, and a lot of folks can't see the knife in the background, but there it is. That's a
Yep.
knife, and you polish a stone and you sharpen a knife. I believe there's a leader in everybody. How do you polish and improve them to be the best that they can be? Not the best there is, not the best in their industry, but the best they can be to enable success in their community, in their family, in their church, in whatever aspect they're operating in. If they're a school teacher, how to be the best school teacher. If they're a principal, the best principal. If they're a fireman, the best fireman. How can you be the best at what you do? Because it's about service above self.
I absolutely our messaging aligns in so many different, in so many different ways. And I can remember, just a little history for those watching and attending this. I can remember when I was starting RMF. I don't even think RMF had come to be. I think it was just Trevor Martin Leadership Coaching, and you were one of my discovery calls. And I can remember talking to you. I can remember the passion that you had for not only the military, for service, but also for absolute dedication to leadership, to leading individuals and promoting them over and their interests over your own, over self, right? And that right there, that has always resonated with me, that message. It flows through to RMF. So I thank you for that. And I 100% agree that it is always, as we perform as leaders, as we help other individuals as coaches, it is about, right? It is about putting them first and putting that greater purpose over self. I firmly believe that. And I'm so in line with that message, man.
I share that with people often when I'll run into somebody and they see me in uniform. And I do appreciate the thanks, but when I hear somebody say, "Hey, I was going to serve, but," no, there's no but. You can serve right now. Serve in your home, in your family, in your school system, in your community, in your neighborhood. There's so many opportunities for service. Do a Boy Scout project. Go pick up some litter. Go work at one of the food shelters. There's so many opportunities for service beyond self. Service doesn't require a uniform; it requires effort.
Preach. Oh, brother, preach. One of my, not to go all biblical, but I am for a second. One of my favorite stories in the New Testament about Jesus is when he washes the disciples' feet.
Mm-hmm.
You think about true servant leadership, and I'm not trying to put any, you believe what you believe, but
Sure.
that story has major impacts. It has a major impact when it comes to servant leadership. You think of Jesus, who he is in that context as a leader, and he washes his disciples' feet. And they even say, no, 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 no. Hey, I should be washing your feet. And he's like, no, listen to me. I'm doing it today because I can and I should. Not just I can, but I should. And that message is huge. And if we choose to listen to that, embrace it, we have the ability to not only change people's minds, but change the entire narrative moving forward. And
No
that, my
doubt.
brother, that's power, baby.
No doubt. Now, I've had uh, great opportunities to work with phenomenal leaders at every level, around me, above me, below me, just great people. And if you take something from everybody you engage with, and there are going to be times you're going to learn lessons, and I share this with my son all the time. Sometimes the lesson is what not to do.
Yeah.
And those are important lessons as well. But I've watched as leaders that I have looked up to, they're the ones that are going to take out the trash. They're the ones that restock the refrigerator. Hey, we need a case of water brought in from outside. They bring in the case of water. They're not asking for things for people to do for them. They're willing to do it for themselves. So
Right
it's
on.
not rank has a privilege, rank has a responsibility. And that responsibility is to demonstrate what right looks like.
What right looks like. Dude, man, you know, there's conversations, and I absolutely love, one of the reasons why I love Way of the Warrior is because I learn so much in every conversation that I have with individuals. So like hearing your passion, knowing your strength as an individual and as a leader, as a man, like that inspires me. That inspires me to be better. I love that when you say like leaders, showing the way, showing what's right. You know, I think of that, that picture, and it, I don't know, it shows up on a lot of leadership posts, but it's the Pharaoh, right? And you got the Pharaoh in the back with the chariot, and he's got the whip, and he's driving everybody forward.
Oh, yeah.
And you got another one who's like, and where he's actually in the front of the troops, and they're going in the same direction, but he's saying, "Follow me." Not saying now you go do because I say. He's saying, I go first, follow me. I have you. I will take you to victory. I will show you the way, because I'm going to be there right beside you every step of the way.
Absolutely. It's that passion, it's that desire for enabling. It's not when you get to the mountain, you're by yourself. You're like, yay. It's when you get to the mountain and there's people with you. How many did you bring with you? That's the critical aspect of leadership. It's not being out front, it's being in a group with folks that are all accomplishing great things together. And don't get me wrong, I'm not going to sit here and say I've done everything right. And I've stubbed my toes quite a few times. And there's probably some folks that may see this and go, I'm not working for that dude. And that's fine. You can't make everybody happy, but I do acknowledge that I've tried to grow and learn from some of those lessons along the way and never be satisfied with just staying at the status quo. Again, I'm not the best, never have been, but I'm your pack mule and I'll grind. And that's what I try to not grind to a place. And we talked about the comfort, the complacency aspect. There are seasons for everything. There are seasons to sprint. There are seasons for a marathon. There are seasons to just run some track sprints. So you have to figure out where you are in the training cycle to be able to be successful and where to push and where to help others.
Man, yes, 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 yes. Where to push and where to help others. Man, I absolutely love that, Kyle. I love the passion in which you speak about it. Like that's what we need more of. And that's, once again, like that's the whole purpose for this show, for Way of the Warrior. Talking about that purpose, talking about, pushing the boundaries so that not just but we get better, and we get better as a collective. And I applaud that. So Kyle, as we kind of come to the end of this discussion, when you're doing your leadership, your coaching, how can people find you? Like, or what platforms are you on? How can people reach out?
So I'm most prolific on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Coach Kyle Hogan on LinkedIn. I do have an unpolished leadership page on LinkedIn, but it was sort of a backup when I got my main page hacked. So I tell everybody update your security password and have a secondary email. So, and then I'm on Instagram, but I'm really only got about 200 followers. I'm not prolific on that platform. It's just not my audience.
Gotcha.
So primarily on LinkedIn. I do the monthly newsletter. I do a couple videos a month, and I do 3 days a week dropping a post on there. And a lot of times people ask me, where do you get your inspiration? It's honestly, who have I interacted with? What did I have? Watching the sunrise, riding my bike, working out. It's whatever inspires me that day. It's literally not scripted. I call it one take Jake, and I throw stuff on there, and it has not come easy, and it's not comfortable, but it's my effort to try to help enable others. And when I get a text message or I get a direct message on one of the platforms that people say, hey man, what you're doing speaks to me, that's what really motivates me. So I'm really appreciative of those, because I didn't know at first if it was going to resonate. And I've had a lot of people tell me, hey, I love what you're doing, keep it up. So that it's, again, it's not for me, it's what can I share. And that's the sort of, as you talk about going forward, as you culminate as a leader, and it's a lifelong process, how much did you give away? And that's my methodology right now for giving it away. If I have a lesson that I'd like for somebody else not to have to repeat because it was painful, find your own. Don't repeat mine. So what I'm trying to do through the platform is to give everything I have away.
Man, yes, that is amazing. And yeah, I wish I had something. I'm just listening to you like that truly, that moves me. And I'm just thinking in my head that there's things that I need to change or that I want to change in how I lead, just based off of some of the things that you said. So I thank you for that. Like I really do. I'm taking notes like crazy up here. Um, so once again, your main platform is LinkedIn. So folks,
Yep.
definitely want to check Kyle and Unpolished Leadership out. And I can tell you from, from a personal standpoint, Kyle's message, it needs to be heard, and it will. If you let it, and that's key, you got to open up your mind. You got to let that message in. It will change your world, especially as a leader. So Kyle, like from the bottom of my heart, number one, I really appreciate you accepting the discovery call way back in the day. Like that means so much to me. Obviously, grown closer, and continue to follow you and support your leadership and believe in you 100%, brother. I absolutely do. So first of all, thank you for that. Second, thank you for being part of Way of the Warrior, and thank you for just sitting here and educating on us on what it takes to be a leader in today's world.
Trevor, thank you so much for this opportunity. I appreciate it. And when people reach out, it's just what I do. I just take the call, because you never know who you can help. And watching you blow up and RMF blow up, man, it's awesome. I
Hey,
appreciate your content. Love it. Your
I
artistic
appreciate
ability
that.
is fantastic.
Thank you, man. Like I appreciate that. I mean that, that means so much to me. Um, you know, you were talking about the message that you put out, and all it matters is that one person, right? Somebody grabs that message and comes back to you and says, "Hey, that hit me." And you're right. I can remember a time, and don't get me wrong, there's still times that I slip back into this, but I can remember a time where I looked at it and I'm like, oh man, I'm not getting that many impressions. I don't have that many likes. Oh, I don't even have any comments, or I only have 6 comments. But that's the point. There were comments, even just one. If your message hits somebody in the mind, the heart, the gut, whatever, that right there, you're making an impact, because it's speaking to somebody, and they'll pay that forward in some way.
Absolutely. When you get those reposts every now and then,
Yeah,
they hit you
yeah.
right in the feels. You're like, man, they want to
Like,
put it on their network. That's
boom,
awesome.
baby. Yeah, absolutely. You get lit. The last thing before we close this out and say goodbye to the audience, you were talking about just leaders in your following, right? And I think it's by Tommy Spalding in one of his books. I don't know if it's The Heart-Led Leader, but he talks about at the end of your legacy. Oh, it was talking about the mountain when you said, hey, like, who'd you bring with you? This is the point. He says, I think it's him. He says that when you get to the end of your legacy, people could come up to you and go, hey, how were you as a leader? And you're like, dude, I was boss. I was amazing. I was the best leader there was. But they won't. If they truly want to know how you were as a leader, they're going to go to your people. They're not going to come to you. They'll go to your people and say, hey, Trevor was your leader, right? Yeah. How'd he do? And that answer that they give, that's your legacy.
Absolutely. Again, you're never going to be 100%, because I know it hit me in the feels once when somebody blasted me, and I'm like, okay, there's probably some accuracy in there, and I need to tighten up that. But for the most part, I do feel comfortable that I've left a positive legacy overall, just because of the notes and the emails and the text messages I still get every day, and that is powerful, and that's what makes your heart, that fills your bucket, man. That's where it takes you to where you want to go.
100%, bro. 100%. Well, audience, I hope that you've enjoyed this, your Way of the Warrior with Kyle Hogan. I know that I have. It's been one hell of a ride, one hell of an experience. Kyle, once again, thank you very much for joining us today.
You're very welcome, Trevor. Thanks so much for your enthusiasm. Keep crushing, brother.
Will do, brother. Audience, have a great night, and we'll see you next time.